We're looking at today, as you can see, is the German game developer Stryking has just closed its holiday auction, raising quite a lot of money. So this is 552 ETH. The price of ETH is kind of a volatile a bit at the moment, but that's getting on for about $75,000. So $75,000 is pretty good if you're selling some blockchain game items. Let's have a bit of background on Stryking. So Stryking's been around for quite a long time as a German developer. It actually runs a game called Football Stars. Football Stars is a kind of real-world fantasy football game, so it includes the real football teams in Germany, and it's a management game, so you're kind of creating teams based around these real-life football players. It announced about a year ago it was going to go into blockchain. So this is kind of the first thing that's interesting because obviously this game is already successful. It already has a lot of players. So you're bringing blockchain items into an already successful game. The advantage of that clearly is you have people already playing the game, already invested in the game, and blockchain is giving them a way of kind of getting more ownership in the game. So that kind of works from that point of view. Maybe that's one of the reasons that they've been successful with this auction. In the long term, there can be issues with bringing blockchain into existing games in the sense that you're creating this new ownership monetization option. And depending on your game structure and your gameplay and your metagame, that can have a big impact in terms of play to win. So why have people been spending thousands of dollars buying these in-game characters? Well, obviously they're doing it because they think they're going to enjoy the game more. Potentially, I don't know enough about this game, but potentially, they're going to progress through the game faster. So you do kind of have this issue that it can become a play-to-win scenario, which for some games is fine, for some games is terrible. So interesting. We'll see how this plays out. Let's go down a bit and see exactly the details. So what's interesting, Stryking has a deal, in this particular case, has a deal with Bayern Munich to do these blockchain-based player cards. Bayern Munich obviously being the most popular, the most successful German Bundesliga team. So we look here in the holiday auction, the two top-selling items were these ultra-rare, what they're called ultra-rare full team bundles. So these include all 24 player cards of the 1920 season. So all the Bayern Munich players in this season, you could buy them as a bundle. And the Christmas one was sold for 133 ETH, and the New Year edition is 122 ETH. So fairly substantial amounts of money. So what's that going to be? That's about $15,000 for each of those. But we already noticed a problem, or not a problem, I should say. We always noticed an interesting kind of dividing line around this. So, and this becomes a problem, I think, particularly with with blockchain items around real-world items, or in this kind of in this version, real-world people. So, because football works on seasons, and next season there won't be the same 24 Bayern Munich players. So we have this seasonal thing. So this is interesting that for a game that's going to last a number of years, people are buying items that will age. So obviously next season, these cards will still work in the game, but they won't be the same kind of level in terms of they're not the newest cards. So there's an issue there. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to play out. The big issue there, I guess, is in terms of value. So what's interesting with blockchain game items is players own them and can trade them as they want to. And obviously, what we're interested in there is how value changes over time. Clearly, you'd imagine as a new season happens, the new cards from the new season will be seen as being more valuable than the old ones. It may not be the case. Who knows? If a player retires, that his last season card in which he was active might become very valuable. We don't know. But this is like an uncertainty around this. And what's interesting, and this is, I think, the most interesting part of this press release, is now obviously people have bought these cards and then now they're reselling them. So blockchain, for me, a blockchain game, what's most interesting to see is what's the resell. Not so much the money, but are these cards being resold? So is someone looking to sell them and someone buying them? Because then you're creating a market, and that's interesting because that's happening between players. That's not being driven by the developer. So OpenSea is the main marketplace where people sell blockchain game items. So we have Robert get it right. We have Robert Lewandowski. There's a bundle, so 2 cards, the first print, whatever that is, in a Christmas edition. And that was resold for 64 ETH. So that's a reasonable sum of money. What's that going to be? That's going to be about over $1,000. maybe getting off $1,000. So someone has spent $1,000 rebuying this kind of bundle. Manuel Neuer, a bit easier to pronounce. Christmas edition resold for 25 ETH. Thomas Muller. I mean, these are all very well-known players. All German national players, or Robert Lewandowski is Polish, but they're very well known. So it's interesting is they're reselling, and this is, I think, where we actually see real value. So the fact that the Christmas edition of all these 24 player cards was sold from the developer for 133 ETH is, to me, irrelevant. What's interesting, the value is if that was resold, what would be the price someone else would pay for it. So this is the good bit of the news, the most interesting bit of the news. The other thing I think is confusing a little bit is, or it will take time for players of these games to understand what's going on here. So they say here, so far every card we've auctioned is of the legendary variety. So not only do we have these cards based on the season, we also have cards based on rarity. So we have a legendary card, Thomas Muller card is legendary. That's the one that's been sold. So there's obviously going to be Thomas Muller cards that are not legendary. They're maybe they won't be common, I don't know, but can have different rarities, and that's going to obviously that means there's more or less of them, and that also impacts the value. So I do think, as I go back to my original point, is we have a certain amount of confusion about players in this game who are playing the game, nothing to do with blockchain. Blockchain's introduced, and it's going to take them time to understand what ownership means, and it's also this kind of stuff. Blockchain is about permanent ownership, but these are going into games where every season it changes. How does that play out? I don't know. It could be good, could be bad. I don't know. That's up to the developer to handle that sort of stuff. So in the near future, we will release cards in lower rarity tiers. Obviously, most people cannot spend $1,000 buying a blockchain game item, even if they can resell it. So interesting news today. I mean, it's always interesting when you see these big headlines. Personally, I over time I think less and less about the value of people selling very high value items in the beginning, because we just know a lot of people have a lot of crypto and they're not spending thousands of dollars because that money's not dollars, not putting it on their credit card. They just have a lot of ETH. So if someone had 500 ETH, then they could just do it, and it wouldn't necessarily be like them spending real money. What's interesting is this resale thing. So this is what we'll be looking at in future months. Really, how is the value of these cards being reflected on OpenSea? Because that will be the long term kind of a prognosis on whether this adding of blockchain is interesting and successful for the Football Stars game. So there we go. That's the news today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Blockchain Gaming World is all about the world of blockchain games. So if you're into that, please do subscribe. If you have any comments, please put them in the comments box. It'd be great to see what you think about if you want to buy I can't pronounce his name, Robert Lewandowski. There we go. Would you spend $1,000 buying one? Let me know. But thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.